Okay, so we're back with episode 60 of the Here's the Deal podcast, the Max Baker Jr. story.
He said 60. You're supposed to make some.
Yeah. Big noise coming at
Okay,
you.
let's try this again, Jay.
Josh, I'm going to have to explain to you how sound effects work.
Hey, literally sitting down from starting the recording. So let's take it back.
when it seems blatantly obvious, that's when you do it. Yeah.
Well, that's inappropriate laughter. We didn't say anything.
That's not laughter.
No,
Oh, that's cheering.
That's cheering you on
That's
because
applause.
we came on.
Do it again. Hit that again. Okay, listen for the drunk guy in the background that I swear he went to Mad Max's on May. It was guaranteed. So we wanted to discuss our favorite moments of this podcast because there's been a lot of milestones. There's been a lot of ups and downs. Even though I said we were going to talk about Sounds of the Underground and Blue Oyster Cult, we decided to do this best of episode, which is an idea we've talked about, but we didn't really know how we were going to do it. But we
totally did not prepare for it. We're just going to do this on the fly.
This one is on the fly.
It's off
and
the cuff.
And it's from the heart.
So we started this roughly a year ago, or a year's worth of episodes.
Correct.
We had a minor setback along the way that nearly derailed the whole project.
When did we start recording? We started recording like what? It was still cold outside. Quit playing with stuff. Leave that Evil Knievel coin
We
alone.
started in July
No,
12th.
no. When we started recording, we started recording before we ever put the first ones out.
I'll have to go back and look because it really and truly.
It was like February.
We'll peel the curtain back. This is how it all started. Rob Miller and I had been discussing this idea for, 5 or 6 months. Once a week, Rob would come in my office and he'd go, "Now, Jay, I really think Max needs a podcast, but
That's
we
a
got to
pretty good Rob
figure it
Miller,
out."
Jay.
I've been working on it.
That is pretty good.
And so we kind of brainstormed ideas, and he came in one day and I said, "Rob, I've got it. Max has so many stories," and I was talking about your birthday party or roast or whatever it was where the hippies played at Cool Daddy's.
Right.
When the Texas Hippie Coalition had only played Oklahoma City like once before.
Right.
This was like their second time.
Maybe third.
Maybe third.
Yeah.
So I was telling him about some of those stories that were told at your roast. And he was like, "Yeah, there is all these stories." I said, "That's what we need to do. It needs to be an autobiographical podcast because we had just come out of the pandemic. The Tiger King dropped during the pandemic, and then there was a series of other documentaries that were all kind of autobiographical like that all came out during the pandemic. But they were all these crazy stories. One of them was a guy that Josh and I parody all the time, Dale Brisby. He had his own podcast or documentary series that came out.
Rodeo King.
But when we started talking about this, Rob came to you and pitched the idea, and you were like, "This is a great idea. I want to do this." So I grabbed all the equipment, and I came to your house one night, and it was just you and I. I set up the camera, I set up the Rodecaster, and we sat there and recorded. And we did 2 episodes like that, and it was a complete train wreck. We had no direction. We had no information.
Is that the one with the squeaky chair?
No.
No.
These never came out. Because after it was over, I went back and I listened to them, and I sent them to you as well. And I said, "You need to listen to these." I said, "Because I think we're doing a disservice if we put these out, because these stories are better. We've got to do more research and really work at this to put this all in order."
Well,
and that's when we brought in Jimmy Johnson, and he came in one time, and then that's when Jeff
he wasn't on the show, but he was.
And then that's when Jeff he was there one day,
Yes.
and he chimed in. He was like, "Oh, by the way,
Well, I just given Jimmy Johnson a pile of. He said he didn't have any Element anything from Element, and so I went through and found a bunch of
you
Element
gave it to him that night."
Yeah.
ticket stubs and posters and stuff, and he's like, "Well, you have more Element stuff than I do."
And you said, "Oh, by the way, I have
Yeah,
all the
and-
information and all this stuff from all of these shows."
You know, the thing that I had told Rob, and everything. You know, I go back to David Huff because before David Huff passed away, he had the idea of me telling the story of what all I have done or been part of, especially the casino part.
With him writing a book,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct. And so, you know, when you approached me and Rob approached me, you know, I thought long and hard about it. And the thing of it is, you know, at some point when you don't get credit, or at some point when you're sitting there and you got all the, you know, you telling these stories that are unbelievable, but the crazy part about it is they're believable because you have people that have been with you that have been part of it. And so, you know, it was so important for me to be able to go to the beginning to where I was born to how we're doing it now year by year. So because what we've been in this year that I've learned is we've done a lot of shit. A lot. And the other part of it is we had no money. We had a lot of heart. And, you know, I mean, other people, you know, the thing that I see the most and that I'm very proud about, and that, you know, everything my dad has ever said to me or taught me, you know, you didn't come this far to lose. But the coolest moments that I have about whatever, if I was to quit tomorrow and everything was to just go away, the one thing that I would always remember is without me and my type of putting things together, a lot of things might not have happened, or they probably would have happened. I can't put that part on it, but they would have happened in a way different way.
Differently, completely
You know,
differently.
and so
Different bands.
You know, and the other part of it is too. And I look to my right, you know, and you got Jeff, and you know, and thank God, and also too, it's a blessing that you know he had kept these books because I'd done the same, but you know, fires, unfortunate mishaps, theft. You know, I haven't been so lucky in certain ways. But, you know, it's not me, you know, yeah, I'm a huge part of it and it's my story. But without you, Jay, without Jeff, without Josh, you know, I mean, I can talk all I want, but when you put it together in this kind of thing, you know, because the biggest deal, and my sister has said to me and a couple other people, everybody wants to know what's behind the curtain.
What's really going on backstage.
What's real, and you know what? And you know, you see these pictures of dudes standing around with their in the year now. You know, it's what you make it.
Backstage now, there's a professional backdrop with the band's logo and their sponsors' logos, and they're standing in front of it, and all these people that paid to be there are taking a picture in front of it so they can post on their Instagram
Photo ops.
and their Snapchat and their Facebook. But Max Baker's backstage photo is him naked wearing a tie or holding a javelin.
I've seen it.
You know, but the other part of it is it's living. You know, it's living, and you know, love my stories, hate my stories, whatever you want to think about them. They're real. They happen.
Well, the cool thing is with these books that you're talking about, which they probably don't know what you're talking about, but I kept these books that I tried to keep a flyer and a unused ticket and a pass from every show I did, and did it for years. And so with these books, what happens is Max starts going through these books, and I go through them, and you know, when you've done so many shows, it all kind of blends together over the years. So it's the really good stuff or the really bad stuff or something that really bizarre happened. Is
or
the stories
something
that you
really
tell.
great that, you know what, I mean,
The artist change, the production changes, but when you show up to work, it's the same job day in and day
Right.
out. You're
But-
doing
but
the
the-
same thing, but the
no
music's
two-
just changing.
But no two shows are the same.
Right.
You know, and every show has its own challenges. There is no perfect show. There's always something that has to be, you know, something that has to be done, adjusted behind the scenes. You know, a lot of times, you know, people see me the day after a show and say, "Man, I saw you last night at the show. Man, that was a really cool show." And they saw it from the
A whole different
from
angle.
from the consort guy
didn't realize that there was one issue taking
Right.
place, whereas your day was probably hell putting out
Right,
fires
right.
to make it seem as if there was no issue.
You know, they don't realize that the
Or-
band was
or-
late, or that the fire
Yeah.
marshal was wanting to shut the place down, or that there was the runner had a
bathrooms are
wreck.
screwed
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, you never know.
Or you've got law enforcement just itching to do something, and you're just pacing, waiting. You're wanting the lights to come on. You know, if are they going to go past 11:01 to where it becomes an issue? You know, and
But when
just-
you start flipping through these books, it's like it's kind of like a photo album of our concert
life
past
of
you know?
our life,
It
And-
triggers memories.
It does.
Well, you know, and the other part of it is for me, you know, if you ever, you know, there's been times when I've been down on myself, you know, and you know, really beating myself up and you know, feeling like a failure, feeling like whatever. But these books, you know, of this is what I did with no money and hustle to where I am today, and being able to go back, this has been the best for me because it puts my mind to the whole thing of it is you know what? I did that, you know?
Well, what I really enjoy about the way we're doing this is it's and I told you from the beginning, if we're gonna tell the real stories, I'm all about it. If we're gonna make up a bunch of crap, you know, and try to make this entertaining, I'm not into it. The real stories are good enough. You really don't have to add
you know,
anything
you
to
can
them.
take your pick and you take them if you like them, take them if you don't. But you know, and the other thing, the people, you know, the people that we brought on this.
Or the bands that we brought up that,
You know-
that you forgot. You
Right.
forgot about these bands. You forgot about these people. You know, and there's people that have actually got in contact with
You
all
know,
of us that
have reached out that we haven't heard from in years.
because
you
of
know,
this podcast.
the other part about it is too, you know, it's kind of honoring the people that we do bring on are special because you know what, good, bad, and different. They've helped us get to where we are today. You know, they're part of the journey and the story.
It wasn't until right before we started recording this episode did I realize that we've had 12 guests on within the year. Who was the first guest? Was it
The first guest was
it-
David Brown, wasn't it?
Was it David or was it Carrie?
No,
think-
it was David.
Was it?
It was either David or
No,
Carrie.
it was David.
David.
Was
It
David?
was David. Yeah, David Brown. You know, I mean, look at him.
Okay, so what did I just see today on Facebook?
No, it was 2 days
or
ago.
2 days ago on Facebook.
You know, he's in Michigan learning how to make. You know, got a craft, got a hobby.
He's at Guitar Luthier School.
He's gonna
And he-
take a hobby into profession, building custom guitars. They had him on TV on the morning show.
on the morning news show.
I mean,
on CBS National Morning Show. I
Right.
watched it live on CB Sunday,
did you?
Sunday morning. Yes.
Isn't that cool? And here's David Brown.
you know, yeah, building a guitar. You know, the other, you know, I had my sons on here, Dylan and Austin.
Oh, for the Christmas episode.
You know, the thing with them is they're my sons. I love them.
That was a great
I
episode.
mean,
That was a good
my
episode.
thing of it is, you know what? They're the reason why I live. You know.
We're going to have him on again, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
And then Alan Corey to talk about
you know,
choice music.
Alan Corey, he was the main, you know, he was kind of like, he was an employee, first employee. But you know what? He dug the record store and the record store dug him because it was all about the music, you know?
And he told some stories that I didn't know, even though I was around for that whole time.
Carrie Staten.
You know,
What can you say? Carrie's always awesome to have on.
I mean, you know, Carrie's been my friend and brother since the 80s. You know, we rode together all over the world.
Friends to the dirt.
You know,
Rev Jones.
one of the best bass players in the world. But you know, I can remember when he's a 14-year-old, Rev Jones, wanting to try to figure out how to work with us. You know, and we're older guys, but we took him under our wing, and you know, we've I've watched him go on to do great things, you know, and done great things with him,
And he's still not through doing great things.
you know.
And then Big Dad Rich, when we went to the Canes ballroom.
Big Dad Rich from the Texas Hippie Coalition, you know. I mean, what can I really say that band is, you know, I've worked a lot of bands. I tried to put some bands together, you know.
I'll
to
tell you
get
what
to
you
the
can
next-
say, Max. Go buy the vinyl of Pride of Texas that just got released.
Yes, here's the thing. You know, 15 years ago, I was into managing the band. We put out a record called Pride of Texas. And, you know, I've always wanted to make a record. I've always wanted to produce a record. I didn't produce it, but I funded it to where coming out at the end of June will be a green vinyl or a black vinyl numbered of the Pride of Texas. It's a 15-year anniversary. It's a collector's piece, plus it's one badass record. I suggest everybody to go to thcofficial.com and pick it up.
There you go.
And listen to their new song.
And the Cats record show is coming up, and we're going to have a Here's the Deal vintage booth, and you're going to have some there.
Exactly. And then the other part about Big Dad Rich is you know, you've got the new record, the Name Lives On, you know, which I highly, highly recommend. Listen to the music, listen to the album, and you know what? Decide for yourself. It's, to me, it's one of the greatest road records in the year 2023 that you could have.
Then who else did we have? Golly.
We had, you know, Robin Alvis, Toucan Productions.
That was a fun episode because I got to learn a lot about the history of the Oklahoma City music scene.
Correct.
And Midwest, how important venues in Midwest City were to metal. And that's really where a lot of those bands kind of came from, was the Midwest
Well,
City,
I
Del
mean,
City
if
area.
it wasn't for Robin Alvis would have never introduced, I could have never met, Max Baker Jr. could have never met Ralph Russell Jr., which led to me doing shows at the Diamond, you know?
And Robin is a true success story because he really did have Toucan out behind his parents' house in that
In the
garage,
garage.
detached garage behind their
And he
house.
worked at the commissary.
on
at Tinker?
Yeah. I mean, he truly started
You know,
out with nothing. And if you go to his warehouse today, it is so impressive.
beautiful.
I mean,
Listen, he's got tours out he's got equipment out with George Thorogood. He's
Cole
got equipment
Wetzel.
out with Cole Wetzel. He's got equipment in Vegas at the
then you just do Halloween.
Halloween. He's got, you know, I mean,
The Rock Vault
the
stuff.
guy worked, Rock Vault. And so, you
and he's
know,
got his stage lines. I mean, he's got all kinds of stuff going on.
And then don't get me started on the guitar collection because it's rad.
He's got some cool guitars.
And then obviously Chip's Enough when we talked to him at Legends.
and we'll be back there going with them in July when he brings Enough's Enough back with the Choir Boys. And, you know, me and Chip go way back.
That's what he said, Max. That's what he said. And then Lisa McGinnis,
Road Stories for Days.
which
I mean,
I thought you guys were lifelong friends. I didn't realize that I actually, you know, knew you longer than,
Right.
you know, before she met you.
you know, with her,
It just seems like we've known Lisa forever.
she was a ride or die, and you know there were a
It
lot
still
of
is.
there was a lot of first done with her, you know, street team stuff. You know, sometimes, and the other thing about this podcast that's made me think is, you know, all the failures and all the things that wouldn't work or that we tried that didn't work. I was able to put them into other ways of working. And now in 2023, you know, I'm still learning that the way that I believe and the way that we do it is, you know, never forget where you came from.
And then we can't leave off our probable future Oscar winner, Mini Mike Cook.
The greatest man alive. You know, I mean,
And they just got a huge standing ovation for that movie.
Dude,
Flowers of the Killers of the Flower Moon or whatever it is.
It's going to destroy when
It'll
it comes
I
out.
predict
When does that come out? In like October?
October. I predict that movie will be the baddest movie ever.
It's going to be the
made.
biggest movie ever released.
And you know, with my little friend Mike Cook, brother, very dear. He's my inspiration. I mean, he no matter how you feel, no matter how down you are, no matter, you know, if you're going through the shittiest times in life, you look at a person like Mike Cook, you know, he's small, and you know his living odds of living, he's failed before he wakes up, you know. And here you got a guy who's been a daredevil. You got a guy who's, you know, been duct taped to Travis Pastrana's motorcycle and done a world-record backflip or front flip or whatever it is. You know,
He's been in the movies.
I've took the dude all over the world to run through walls of fire, you know, and hang out with Evel Knievel. And, you know, then you look at his film, you know, he was in Jesse James' Garage.
Monster Garage.
Monster Garage. He was on America's Got Talent. He was also on in the movie Jackass. And so then he was in some parts guy in some movie that has a girl, Courtney Hanson.
Oh, that was the TV
new one.
series that was on the Speed Network or whatever.
The last one.
Yeah.
But then, you know, he called me one day and, you know.
Ride of your life.
Right. And I've done a lot. I mean, listen, at the Choctaw Nation, he's been a leprechaun, right? Cupid, Mr. Moneybags. You know, the leprechaun, I mean, they gave him a kid's Escalade, and he's riding around.
Power Wheel.
Yeah, Power Wheel. And he's riding. It's me in the wheelchair and him in the Power Wheel. And we're cruising the casino. And he's got $1 million check he's going to give out, you know. I mean, just things like that to be able. But then, you know, the biggest legend of it all is he said, called me one day and he goes, man, I sent in this part for this movie. You know, then we went to lunch, and a couple of weeks later, he goes, hey, I got the part for that movie. And, you know, he, like, back in the movie, it's about, you know, Oklahoma and the Wild Wild West, and the hawker, he was a hawker, going out giving out flyers, because I guess back then you could buy land or, you know, I mean, you could do a hostile takeover. But then it went from him being in the movie and giving the thing out to him having a speaking part, because here's the little guy, you know, Francis Ford Coppola doesn't meet anybody, doesn't talk to anybody, you know, and so here you go, guy Mikey, the life of the party, basically, you know, you got this guy, he's telling me, yeah, he talked to me, he gave me a bit part, I mean, he gave me a speaking part, all the actors, De Niro and DiCaprio, all talked to him before he was doing his scene, making sure he wasn't nervous. You know, dude, you're already nervous. You know, you're past that point. And so, you know, and then the coolest part about it is he tells me, yeah, and they had an assistant who had to walk 2 blocks to the catering to bring me a steak dinner because they didn't want me to get my shoes dirty.
That's awesome.
You know,
That's
so
great.
I mean, the kid lives it up. He's my hero.
He's a true rock star.
And you know, and so we'll have him back on because we got a lot more to talk about, you know, then
He's going to be in an Oscar-winning film.
well, no, I tell you what we're going to do, and you can help me or not. You know, he wants to have a watch party where you can watch the first run of him with him. We want to rent a venue and do it, you know? I mean,
Well, it's not till October. We can do that.
you know, I mean, that's something that I want to do for my friend, you know, because it's a very proud moment. You know, his mom, his dad, you know, just celebrating life in itself, you know. So when you think you got it down and out, you know, put yourself in take your eyes and your vision and think about what would it be like if you was a midget.
Okay, Max, what scared you the most about doing this podcast?
What scared me the most was the fact of the matter is being totally real, not holding back, and, you know,
Well, there was an episode that you didn't know if you wanted to do.
people turning on you, or, you know, you got to remember, you know, I've been public enemy number one, so to speak, to a lot of people. You know, the Slipknot incident. I mean, think about it. You know, think about and what scares me the most is not being able to succeed. And what I mean by that is I'm comfortable enough now to tell it, to do it. You know, I mean, we wouldn't even be sitting in a studio store we're putting together if this podcast didn't exist.
Because we started out doing it at your house,
Right.
and then we moved it to doing it at your office for MedCards Made Easy. But we had to do it after hours when MedCards weren't being done.
Used. Yeah.
You know, when the people who normally work in that office and do that, when they weren't working. So we had to, and then you started going through all of your storage buildings and stuff of all the stuff you had. And that's kind of where, here's the deal, Vintage started coming to life. And every time we come in here, it's a little bit more organized and getting closer and closer to being open.
So we also did a podcast in the van across from the Cat parking lot.
That's right. At the Communication Federal Credit Union parking lot in the blue bus.
Here's one. Maybe you can help me. So when me and Jeff went yesterday to see Billy Strings and we eat at this restaurant, this Italian restaurant, did you go with us in the blue bus to eat? And we ate there at what's called Tio's or something like that?
Nope.
Nope.
That
Okay.
wasn't me.
Because we're trying to figure out
Who we were eating
We
with.
went there once,
We
and
should ask Spike. He was here.
it might have been.
Because the only time we went to Tulsa in the blue bus was
when we
to
did
we went to the Canes Ballroom to the Sex Pistols OK Pop
Did
Museum
you?
podcast.
Okay. Did
No,
you?
we
no.
also
we went
did the
back up
Texas
there for
Hippie.
Big
Did
Dad
you
Rich.
meet us at the Hippies?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we met you at the
Okay.
Canes
Then it was Spike.
because we were both
Right.
working.
We drove up there.
yeah, Josh and I were both working football games and drove up after we were done working.
Yeah, we did that. We did that episode in the Canes dressing room.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so our locations have been
back to the thing that scared me the most is not so much today, but you know, letting it out and it being accepted by my family.
And how was it accepted by your family?
You know, at first they laughed about it, didn't believe it like most people do. You know, and Jeff can contend for this. As each episode has grown, the first few ones, I mean, I wasn't getting so much any kind of people telling me anything, but Jeff was getting hit up on things. You was getting hit up on things, you know, and then when my family listened to it and realized when they listened to the first one, you know, my mom especially, you know, it was like things went on and, you know, no one said anything. And then, and this has happened to me a lot, but my family, no one said anything. And then finally, my sister told me, do you know your mother's your biggest fan? She listens all the time. You know, I don't know. My dad's not into all that. I don't think he'd take the time to listen, but you know,
He probably listened to the episode with Mike.
I wanted to make. Yeah, he would. He would because Mike would make him.
Right.
You know, but the other part of it is though is having that feeling of it's okay now. You know, I mean,
So Dina has listened to every episode.
I think so.
Well, she told me she has.
Yeah.
And your sister wouldn't lie. So do Greg and Marco listen to it?
You know what? I don't. I do business with my brothers. I don't really ask them things like that. You know, I might come around and put like, here's what I know about all of it.
How
What-
many times have you been like, catcalled in public where somebody just yells out, "Here's the deal."
You know, it's happened.
It's starting
It
to
happened in
happen.
Fort Worth the other day, and it's happened.
Yes, some guy came up and said that, asked you, what, he went to a Motley Crue
No, Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden
Yeah, he
concert.
told me I was mean and evil. 1985.
In 1985.
Yeah,
And he'd heard the podcast.
Yeah, and that he had heard the podcast, and it was great. You know, I've had a few people just come up out of that, or this.
We were walking through the casino in Miami, and someone asked you about
to
the
stop me. You know, and this is when it first. This is when it first came out. You know, and then it's great. It's great. You know, those kind of things really excite me. But how I really know, you know, people give me a sign
when you have conversations with
that
people.
they've heard it. You know, or you're talking to someone and they're like, "Hey, here's the deal." You know, I'm like, you know, I don't have to ask them. It's just where'd they get that word? You know,
What's been your favorite moment of the podcast?
my favorite. I have moments. You know, the favorite is sitting down in this chair every week and doing what I do. That's my favorite moment, you know, because it lets me, you know, yeah, I'm hustling. Yeah, I'm 24/7. Yeah, I'm working. You know, I have a lot of things that you guys see it, but, you know, and Jeff's been part, and there's been times when and Jeff is my witness, where I I shouldn't even have got on the headphones. You know, I mean,
Well, yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff going on in your day, and it's like, are you sure we should record today?
you know, but
And then you put on you sit down to record, and you kind of block all that other stuff out, and you start going through the books, and
it's called therapy. You know, I don't pay some shrink a lot of money to do it. We do it. You
so
know,
what was the worst moment of all
Hold
this?
on, Jeff. What's been your favorite moment of the podcast?
Oh wow,
Josh, you're next. So be thinking.
yeah.
yeah,
I got mine now while Jeff
All
is
right,
thinking.
Josh.
Go
What's
ahead.
been your
I had a great time when we went down and saw Chip.
Legends?
Yeah, it was a great show. Food was awesome, and then it wasn't so great when Max hustled us for some bucks. So
I got me some records out of the deal. You got paid back. You know, it just was one of them moments.
In true Max fashion, I need some money to go buy some records.
How much cash you got?
I really enjoy sitting down with all these people, you know, and talking to them, because, I mean, all these people have been part of my life too. You know, it's great when Lisa will sit down and tell stories, and Carrie and Rev, and, you know, and there's a bunch more people that are going to be on next year, or, you know.
Which guest made you laugh the hardest?
I'm gonna have to go with the girl.
It's either Lisa,
hold on.
either Lisa or
You don't
Carrie.
get out of this. That's sneaky, but you don't get out of this. What was your favorite moment?
I think recording in the green room of the Canes Ballroom, just because that place is such a special venue to me. Being in a band, getting to play there, being in radio, doing broadcasts from that venue for so many years, and emceeing shows on that stage for you, Max. You know, that was really where I cut my teeth and learned a lot. You know, and
Never forget where you came from.
and so that place has always been very, very special to me. But the episode with Mike was awesome. The episode with Lisa was
They
awesome.
all have their moments.
The episode with Robin was great, getting to learn about Oklahoma City and Midwest City and the beginnings of the scene. And to think if Robin hadn't moved to Midwest City and that chain of events of you guys meeting and all of that stuff, of all the shows that might have never happened at the Diamond Ballroom. You know, like that's the legendary room where all these shows happen because of you two meeting. And then a chain of events.
It wasn't just the Diamond. We carried them to Rock. We started in Rock City. We ended up at Alcatraz. You know, we did Quicksilvers. We did we did anywhere you hear it, you see it. You know, I see it. I'm like, oh wow, you know, I mean,
I thought it was cool that you had both the boys on,
Yep.
and their perspective of going to shows with you.
So that episode was really, really funny.
It was.
Austin,
Austin-
always, you know, on point. When the microphone comes on, he just delivers every time.
you know, the one moment that has really been dear to my heart is being able to talk about my friend Ronnie Simpson. You know, somebody that I had, you know, everybody loses life, you know, and some you really don't, you know, it doesn't affect you or just, you know, but there's been two people on this podcast that have lost their lives that, you know what, dear to me. Ronnie Simpson, ride or die, 5 years old. If I was to call that man up and say, hey man, I need a driver, you know, he was there with the bag packed and away we went. You know, my ride or dies all the, you know, like, hey, when you trip and travel like I do, late nights become your friend, you know, music becomes your friend. But after a while, you know, as you're rolling, you're looking out the stars, you're looking in the moon, you know, there's people across the way, you know, like Dave, okay, he's 2 hours earlier than Oklahoma. I could be driving at midnight. It's 10 in LA. You know what? To have a conversation gets me about 100 miles down the road or whatever. You know, same way with Hup, you know, just there were go-to people that aren't there now.
Stu Baby.
You know, Stu Baby, you know, that's another, I mean, that one in itself was, you know, then you look at Aerosmith getting ready to peace out.
I never met Stu Baby, but I felt like I know him because you were showing us the messages he was sending you about the podcast as he was listening and going to shows and things like that. And so
he was a big supporter early on, dude.
And you had told us all these stories of going to shows with him.
Right.
And so when he passed, that was kind of a gut punch.
Yeah, because we had made plans to meet in Vegas, and you know what? I'm not really a fan of Vegas.
What was the lowest moment in the podcast?
Lowest would have to be,
Because I think it's pretty close to being the same for all of us.
I think it is.
you know, was the couple low moments, you know. The aftermath of the Slipknot show, losing your stores, and having to restructure and move, finally having a base, you know, getting arrested, losing your child has to be a large one, you know, but then in the same year, months later, you know, losing your source of income to fire, I mean, pretty much can take a person out, you know. I mean, and then there's others we haven't even crossed yet. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've had to learn how to do business a whole different way, you know. So the low points of, you know, don't outweigh the good points because, and there was a time when the low points outweighed a lot, but you know, at some point in time, you can't live in the past. You can't regret the past. You can own it and move on.
Yeah, but as you tell the story, I mean, your low times are really low, but your high times are really high.
My high times are some of the greatest.
It's been a roller coaster
Jeff,
ride.
That's why he went to rehab.
No, but I mean,
Remember, I knew him before he went to rehab. I get it.
The greatest things to be able to do is to be able to do them sober, you know. And I mean, no much have pressure, no much, you know, whether stages are down or you're doing 50 shows in 30 days. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, pressure's on, but it's what you live for.
Ask me what my lowest point was.
What is your lowest point been?
I think it's when I got that call that all the podcasts had been lost.
Yeah.
That was a really low moment.
I mean, if
for
you want
sure.
to talk about show business,
Well,
and understand this when I say this, you know, you're putting your heart and soul into this. You know, you're up 26 episodes. You know, you're high-fiving Jeff, and you know what? We're out there grinding.
Well,
So
we had released.
how many episodes were out at the time? It wasn't that many. Like
It wasn't
10?
that many. It was 10 or less.
10 or 12, something like
But
that.
we had close to 30
right,
recorded.
done.
And it was right in the middle of football season starting, where Josh and I get really busy.
And you had
and
Rocklahoma.
Rocklahoma.
And we were busy.
And,
You know.
and so we had just wrapped up a recording session.
We were trying to record a bunch because we knew we wouldn't be able
Yeah,
to.
right.
Because we were all getting into the busy season.
The one thing we didn't want to do is we didn't want to go stale and have to hold off people. We want to this podcast. We try real hard to do one, have one ready for you every week who listens.
We wanted it consistently to come out every single week, same day of the week, every time, you know, and we knew if we didn't get ahead going into the busy season, because you had a bunch of car shows and stadium shows you were working, and casino shows.
Yeah,
And we got ahead. We get to Rocklahoma,
fair.
and all of the hard drives and SD cards gone.
CB.
Gone. No longer in existence. And so we lose all these episodes, and I have to call Max, and I have to tell
No,
him.
you didn't call me. You had Rob. You called Rob, and Rob called
That's what
me.
it was. I called Rob.
And he's like, Jay was
Hold
scared.
on. So I was. I genuinely was.
Well, you know, and I mean, and hey, listen.
So we didn't even have the next one to put out because
No, we didn't have the next one. Lost those episodes. Took me a minute. You know, I went back to thinking about old Max ways.
Rob came into my office, and he goes, "Oh, he's real mad, Jay. He's real mad." And so I called Max, and I talked to you more that week.
He confided in me, and you know, it was like.
you should hear the stuff that Max was telling me about you.
But here's the flip side of that, though. You know, for every hardship, there's a blessing if you look into the deep soul of it. You know, and I mean, at that point, you know, it was a defining moment for all of us.
It was almost over. Like Max was really contemplating
I
not doing
thought
it.
about, is this going to be worth it? You know, and then Jeff over here said one thing to me that traveling that made sense. He's like, you know, most of these podcasts are cut in a fly, you know, on there. But Jeff said, well, you know, the one thing you could do if we did them over is we could look at anything that we missed and add to it. And so being able,
And I just found a few records.
and the reason why he had a book. Go ahead.
Well, I found some. I had all the books, but I was going through some other stuff that I hadn't gone through in years, and I found a bunch more information that we had left out, and then I found. I was going through some of my brother's stuff, remember? And I found that stack of
Everything we had talked about.
Because
the
my-
last episode, Jeff found in his brother's pile ticket stubs of at least 70% of the episode that we had talked about.
and there was everything from Enough's Enough to the warrant, the very first one the warrant show at Doc's. And my brother passed away in 2015, and so some of the stuff it's taken me a little while to go through. And I was going through a box of his stuff, and I found these old flyers and these old ticket stubs, and realized that we had left a lot of stuff off. And it's kind of weird that happened at the same time that stuff got lost. It's almost like it was meant to happen. And now that
It was a sign, you know, but the other part of it is, though.
I called all of our mutual friends that, you know, are kind of a part of our crew. Like, I'm sure, I think I even called Lisa and said, hey, you're going to have to call Max and help me talk him off the ledge on this deal. And I talked to Jeff too. I was like, all right, what are you going to say to him? Here's what I'm going to say to him. And finally we got it done. I think I just kept using, we didn't come this far to lose back at you.
Well, you know, but then again, too, it's like, you know, at this point, what are you doing this for? You know, and I mean,
And you know, I think the episodes we re-recorded were better than the original ones.
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely.
And you know, as we did more of them, we got better at it. And it was like, you know, all those that were kind of like a trial were lost.
But the other cool thing about it is what it, you know, the best moments, the worst moments, whatever. But here's the true moment. The true moment is every one of you that are listening, that listen, that have took the time out of your day, whether you're traveling, whatever you do, to listen to us, to listen to this podcast. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you. But the fact of the matter is, as of today, we have over 9,000 people who've listened. And how many countries?
16.
How many states?
46.
You know, so
And we're actually recording this in the 1st of June. This will come out in what, the end of July?
Yeah.
But the other cool part about it is, you know, there's times during the week, like Jay will call me up and say, man, dude, you got some weird listening time. And, you know, because he can track it, you know, he can catch a guy or girl or whoever it is, and I thank you. That's binge listening and just listen to 34 episodes.
When I talked to you on Monday, it's because I was looking at these statistics in my office, and somebody between Sunday night and Monday morning had listened to 34 episodes starting at midnight.
Oh, wow.
All the way through.
Oh, wow.
Up until like 5 a.m. or something like that.
You know, so I mean, and that right there's a blessing. You know, so we're gonna keep on pounding them out.
Well, and you know that we've already had a lot of people agree to be on upcoming episodes. We've had Greg Upchurch, we've had Larry Schaefer from Little Wing and Canes, we've had Hunter from Canes, we've had a bunch of people agree to be on this already. Dina's going to be on.
You know, as we get into other years, I mean, you know, that was just the beginning. I mean, I've been blessed and lucky enough to take what I learned there or what I felt on there to go into a whole, you know, if you really want to be part of something, you'll find a way to fit in, you know, and then after a while, I call it perseverance. You know, you look around and I mean, you know, it used to bother me, but then I look at it and go, how can you go to a casino and you're still there 20 years later? How can you go to a university and, you know, do all kinds of stuff and massive graduations and you're still there 20 years later? You know, I mean, how can you go? Because the way that I look at it, if I come to visit you and work around you, I'm coming to stay. And how I'm going to come to stay is I'm going to bring the Baker boys and the Baker girls and the people around me that are going to do a great job. And, you know, we write our own history, so to speak. You know, just like, and I'll use something, you know, I'm all University of Oklahoma, and I'm all about champion, play like a champion, you know, and everybody's about football and everybody's about basketball. But you know what? If you take the University of Oklahoma, they're number one in golf. They're number one in women's gymnastics. And as we're talking right now, you know, they've what, 52 wins.
52 wins
and they're
in a row.
one game away of three-peating and becoming the you know,
three-time college softball national champions.
I mean, you know, but here's the thing. Oklahoma born, Oklahoma bred, and that's what this podcast is all about, you know. You don't come this far to lose. And
that's it right there. There was your tagline.